Scorpio and Ophiuchus, welcome to your weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for November 21st to the 27th of 2016. I'm Athen, and this channel is about using the actual constellations in the sky, known as Sidereal Astrology. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check out the link down below because the signs are different, which means your sign might be different, and you'll want to watch this for the right sign. All right, so Scorpio and Ophiuchus, a lot of things shifting for you guys. You guys got your sun, or the sun, shifting into your first house. Especially for you Scorpios, I think you're going to feel this the most. But in either case, you should be, all of you, whether you're watching this for your sun sign, your moon sign, or your ascendant sign, should be feeling this greater attention and focus on your personal needs. And the shift is actually quite obvious. And again, it's going to take time depending on how late of a degree you are. But when the sun comes out of the 12th house, that's coming out of what is a more behind the scenes time. More of a spiritual time, reflection, and more about psychology and that kind of stuff. Going into the first is much more active. Okay, so I think whether it's this week or in the coming weeks, I think slowly but surely there is more focus on your personal needs, right? Your independence, maybe some physical exercise, physical activities, your goals, and all that good stuff relating to you. And happy birthday for those of you Scorpios who have your birthdays this week, watching for your sun sign. All right, so that's the shift to the first half, but I do want to mention that there is already this strong emphasis on your first house, but it's been more about taking things seriously. Maybe some responsibilities in your life that you can be certainly building upon. And I think this is a great week to do that because Mercury is actually going to conjoin up to Saturn here this first half of the week as well, emphasizing that there is this new chapter about what you're building. And again, it's about you, it's about your independence, or your aspirations, whatever that might be personally. But it takes time. And so that's the best way of working with Saturn, is with patience, with a bit of persistence, but nonetheless seeing the top of the mountain and just climbing it one step at a time, right? And this is over the coming years. It takes a lot of time with Saturn, but what you build with yourself, with your goals, with your independence right now can be very long lasting. So I think it's an excellent week to continue with that and to build those matters. It could even have to do with things that are really meaningful to you. In fact, Mercury does rule your 8th house. So there could be, some things that you're asking about, what really matters, what can you build in that department, and could even be deeper relationships or maybe deeper work. In fact, there is the shift of focus with the sun who rules your 10th going into your first, maybe emphasizing your career at the moment. Could be the case for some of you. But in either case, approaching things with the slow and steady approach, especially those aspirations, because Mercury rules the 11th, Jupiter is in the 11th. This is all about your personal aspirations for the future, right? And taking that one step at a time. But you should have a lot of positive energy with this, some good opportunities, or at least a bit of inspiration to help you cultivate that 11th house. Some of you too, maybe even community or group related stuff could be the case. Also, what's being built, or maybe with your friends or whatnot. But again, patience is the name of the game with this. And let's not forget the North Node is pointing in your 10th house, which means this year and next is just such a good time for all this big picture stuff, whether it's your career, your productive life, these things that naturally already do take time. All right, so that's the shift there. I also want to mention that around that same time here, around Tuesday, Mercury is going to be sextiling up to Jupiter. So there is some easy energy here. I mean, it's all positive, but this could be like a bit of inspiration there for those personal needs, or maybe you're just feeling a bit confident, or, like you can pursue some of these things. It's quite possible. I think that's something good to tap into. And so good positive energy for the self, independence, and also those aspirations as well. All right, so that's the first half of the week essentially. And the most important thing we've got is that Jupiter is squaring up to Pluto. And so this is going to go exact on Thursday, but all week long, this is where, yes, there's inspiration maybe for these future things or community things or your network circles, but it is requiring this real deep look, okay? Because sometimes with Jupiter, it just comes across as easy. We might rest on our laurels, or we might feel like, oh yeah, we'll get to that next week or whatever. But that's kind of missing the point, because what it's showing is, although Jupiter's like, optimistic about it, or just, maybe lazy about it sometimes too. It's saying that if that's the case, we're kind of missing the point. This is about something deep that's changing, okay? Deep that's changing within us. And I think approaching it as such, seeing, in other words, if there's any fears that you might have, that are preventing you from cultivating these personal aspirations. If there are any fears that are preventing you from cultivating a greater sense of community or with your networks, connection with your network circles, friends, etc., then it's an excellent week to make that change. And I think where the change is actually occurring is with your value system. And I think it's also with your sense of self-worth, right? And even your self-reliance, right? This is all the second house. It's all about values and yourself. It's the inner and outer resources. Okay, so this is all changing. And I think the more you are open to change there with your values, with those aspirations, I think you're going to notice this a very positive thing. And again, dive deep, accept, see if there's any fears that are preventing you, accept those fears, and then make the changes that you want to make. And this can be a very positive time to do that. It could also be changes with your self-expression. Jupiter rules your fifth. This can be a time of you expressing yourself within the network circles, or, your aspirations having more to do with your passions or interests or something like that. So whatever that is, I think, again, facing any fears that might be preventing you from expressing yourself, whatever the medium might be. It might be projects, it might be creative stuff, whatever. Yeah, expressing yourself, being your true self, right? Contributing to something larger than yourself, which is all the 11th house. All right, so that's the square. And then right after that, Venus is actually going to go over Pluto on Friday. Okay, so there is not only this transformation with your values and all those areas I talked about, but also your relationships are changing. Venus rules your 7th house. So directly after that on Friday, it's a really good time to see, again, if there's anything you can change with your perspective on relationships. Okay, again, with Pluto, it's very deep. It involves fears. It involves past patterns and making the change that we know we need to make. So knowing that that's all about relationships, all about your relationship values too, because Venus is in the second. And also too, maybe transforming your life so you can have a bit more peace and tranquility. Venus rules your 12th. A bit more of an easygoingness, right? And acceptance, which can be very transformative. So it's involving a lot of key areas, but simply, the deeper we're willing to go, the more fears or the fear that we've maybe brushed under the rug for so long, facing that, making the change, this is the week to do that. It might be uncomfortable. It's the square. It might require some initiation, all right? Some intention on our part and actually taking steps. But like I said, the result is certainly very constructive, or can be when done in that balanced way. All right, so that's the square from Venus, the conjunction from Venus. And then as we get into the weekend, Mercury does square up to Chiron. So for those Ophiuchuses out there, I recommend giving a bit of space here with the communications this weekend, because Mercury, your ruler being squared by Mercury, extra attention on communication, extra attention on correspondence, right? Being aware of that can help balance it out. But both of you, really good time to see if there's any healing that can take place with all this stuff relating to you, right? With these goals, again, if it's, it's not so much the fears, in this case with Chiron, it's just feeling wounded, like maybe we're not capable or able to do it, but know that you definitely are. Okay, and you definitely are capable to cultivate those aspirations too. All right, it's not a major aspect, but as you do that inner healing, I think you'll notice this weekend can be very refreshing, very rejuvenating. And actually, Mercury training up to Uranus emphasizes that even more, and that it's a great weekend for thinking outside the box and doing some new and different things. Again, maybe involving those key areas. And then Uranus in your 5th, expressing yourself, having a bit of that fun, playfulness, all that can be very freeing as you do that inner healing there. Okay, they're happening at roughly the same time. All right, so Scorpio and Ophiuchus, the way I would sum up this reading is that there's definitely the shift into your 1st house. It's depending on your actual ascendant. It's taking time, but there is this focus on your goals, which can be very motivating, very energizing. This focus on your personal needs and your independence, all while taking it nice and slow, nice and steady, no matter what, regardless of your ascendant. Mercury conjoining Saturn is going to be emphasizing all of you. And this is about the patient, persistent approach, again, to the aspirations, to these, to the self, to these key areas that I've mentioned. And your values are changing. That's the Pluto. It's also, you can, again, cultivate these future things or community things. But the deeper you are willing to go, the better. In terms of making changes that you feel like you might need to make. And let's not forget, your ruler, your traditional ruler, is in the 3rd house. So Although not forming any aspects this week, Mars in the third does suggest that it's still an excellent time for you to be really just treating life as a learning process. Maybe doing some reading, some writing, sharing of information, exchanging information, maybe connecting with your peers or your siblings. These are all third house things. I think all of that more, let's say, intellectual and exchanging side to life, even communications, is a great place to continuously focus your attention. All right, so Scorpio and Ophiuchus, have a fantastic week. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.